Hello, everybody.
A few technical problems today. So I'm going to get it up on my phone so we can see questions that are coming through. So do you want to do introductions?
Hello, I'm Naomi Morton, one of the infant feeding midwives. This is Alex Mulford, the infant feeding lead midwife, and we are doing our weekly presentation or questions and answers session on infant feeding and any issues that are burning with you, whether you're pregnant or whether you've had your baby, whether your baby's older, or whether it's just newborn and you've got some you want some answers with us. We love your questions. We love to hear silly questions and not so silly questions, really obvious questions, not so obvious questions. We want you to throw things at us, and hopefully we can help you and support you in this medium, but also give you the offer that you can phone us if you've got any worries. We're based at the John Radcliffe. We're in one of the side rooms on level 5 of the postnatal ward at the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. So let us know if you can hear us and see us.
I can see there's 32 up on the screen.
Fantastic,
so.
Yeah. We did have some technical problems and now we're down to a mobile phone rather than an iPad today because we can't connect.
And I've had my exercise because I've run up and down two floors to change what we're using. We're not on an iPad, we're on a phone. We've got Rian watching. Hi Rian. And some thumbs up, that's lovely.
Dear. Oh, we've connected back again.
Yeah,
it's going to be one of those days. I'm terribly sorry.
Yeah, we'll do our best. We had a few problems last time as well. We ended up stopping it before we wanted to because we lost the internet when we were doing it. So we've already had a question.
Lovely.
Oh, well, not a question, a comment actually. It's Carrie. It's wonderful to have your support. Thank you so much for doing these talks. Well, we're thoroughly enjoying doing them.
Yeah.
It's when the technical side of it doesn't work so well. It's a bit challenging, but we do enjoy it.
This is our 7th week as well, isn't it? We've done this at least 7 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So we have done quite a few of these videos, and there is a YouTube channel, Maternity Voices, Oxfordshire Maternity Voices Partnership YouTube channel, which you may or may not be aware of, which you can go back and watch them all. That's everything that's been happening on MVP, and you can recap. So you will find that some of the stuff that we're doing is repetitive if you're a frequent viewer, that we are saying the same thing again. And so you might find that it's a bit repetitive if you do see it, but again, we're back. So you can add to what you've already heard us say, and if you're not quite sure what that means, then you can ask us a few questions about going through that and just reiterating things.
We've already got a question actually. So we've got Katie. She said, thank you for these sessions first off, and she said her baby's due soon and she wants to breastfeed baby. Hope you heard that. Allow her husband to feed the baby using a bottle of express milk. Can you give formula in the bottle until my milk comes in and then introduce the breast, as I'm worried colostrum isn't enough as baby won't feed properly. Can I feed newborn formula and put baby to breast in the early days? Well, it's interesting actually, that was something we were going to talk about today. It was brought to our attention by our wonderful 3 at OMVP that this has been coming up, that people are thinking it's not enough. Colostrum is enough. Babies are born with tiny weeny stomachs, and we brought stomach-sized balls with us. They're not expecting big volumes of milk in those first few days, and colostrum is a food in concentrate. So actually, it's like giving your baby teaspoons of golden syrup, and they don't want big volumes. Their kidneys can't cope with it. So I don't know if you can see how tiny that is, but that is a newborn stomach.
That's a newborn baby's tummy, so that's tiny.
They do not want big volumes. They want to have small volumes, and that's how their kidneys start to function properly, and the whole body starts to deal with having increasing volumes, because the milk that you get, the colostrum that you get, will go up really quickly. So the more you express, the whole way that milk production is geared is through removal. So milk removal drives milk production. So by expressing and feeding, or just feeding in the first instance, if your baby's feeding well, is all you need to do. You do not need to be giving anything else. And there are loads of babies all around the world that never ever receive formula and don't need to. And we'll tell you if we feel your baby might need something else. And we also have the option of donated breast milk. So don't come in expecting to give formula. Come in expecting to breastfeed, and then that will be what will happen. Babies are not needing big volumes in the first few days, and your milk supply meets those needs and grows with the baby's stomach size. Because Naomi's about to show you.
I'm itching to tell you, this is a picture of a baby's tummy size on about day 3 to 5. So that's when your milk's just started to come in, and the volumes are very small still, you know, about 20 mils or so maximum. So that's maximum. You don't have to fill it. That's the size, so you don't have to fill it. It's like having Christmas dinner every day. You don't have to fill your tummy with Christmas dinner every day, but your body can accept that volume. And then as your baby gets a little bit older, then about 10, 12 days, so a couple of weeks old, can you see your baby's tummy will get even slightly bigger, but that then stays, you know, it's not a big, big tummy. So you can imagine that if you're trying to put a bottle of milk in there, that is going to be, in the early days, you see the difference in the sizes. With those two sizes, that's quite a big difference in sizes, even in the early days to 3 to 5 days. That's a big difference in a tummy size. So think about that tiny little marble where it's just very small volumes. We don't give volumes because everyone's milk supply is different and every baby's needs are different, and the composition of each mother's milk and colostrum is different. So it's individually made for each mother and baby dyad. So, you know, we're not written in stone saying this is how much your baby needs to have this time and the next, because it is a very individual thing. And the capacity of breast milk in the breast is different to every mother. And big breasts don't equate more milk, and small breasts don't equate less milk. And some mothers' breast milk capacity will be more than others. So babies may need to feed more frequently if you've got a smaller breast milk capacity than somebody who's got a larger breast milk capacity. So it is tailored to your baby, not to a textbook and sizes, which is what people feel comfortable being guided by, that they read that this is how much their baby should have. You have to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy's asked a question, and I wonder, actually, I'm just going to plug that Ask the Midwife line. The Ask the Midwife line is the one, we've got midwives here who are manning a telephone line 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the telephone number is on the OMVP, and they will answer all your sort of midwifery questions. I will read it out, and we will do our best to answer it, but we are infant feeding specialists. So she's sort of 24 weeks now, expecting a baby boy. She's already got 2 girls, and she's feeling a lot of movement on what feels like the cervix. The baby was breech at 20 weeks. He seems to always be in the same position, just from the feeling of the movements and the kicks that you're getting. Can it be normal for the baby to be in the same position at this time? I think babies move around a lot, and it may be in that position at the moment, but continue to move. And many subsequent pregnancies, babies move all over the place and may not actually settle head down until the last weeks,
your
days,
third baby,
hours.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And they tend to like jumping in and out everywhere and going round and round. Yeah. They are very, your tummy's got a bit more space in it when it's had a few babies, so it's comfortable in there. If it was breech, it may be, I think that's what you said, didn't you? Yeah. It may be that it has got its feet on your cervix and it's just dancing about a little bit, and that might turn round. You know, it doesn't really matter where your baby is at this point. And they will jump about, but they will go to the most comfortable position for them at the time, and that might be that his feet are sticking straight down and he's just tickling you that way. It does sound that it's okay. It sounds like it's okay, but if you have worries, then you need to contact your midwife and have a discussion with her and see if it's, she needs to see you or not. But it sounds normal to me.
And that's just the sort of question that the Ask the Midwife line will answer as well. They're there and they're manning the phone. So, you know, whereas your midwife might be out doing visits or in appointments, the Ask the Midwife line is there 11 till 7 every day and are answering the calls as they come in, which is brilliant. So that's a fabulous service that's been laid on. Rebecca has asked, do we get time for normal breastfeeding support in hospital before we go home after birth? Absolutely. All our staff are trained. Every person who works in this hospital has been trained. Those that have started more recently, we're doing training with them as well. But everybody knows how to support you with feeding. So yes, you will get help. I think the thing to remember is that a baby is geared up to know how to feed to some extent. It is a learned skill. It isn't something that's inherent in you. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it comes naturally. So you have to learn how to do it. Whereas a baby will actually attach and suck if given that opportunity and we don't interrupt it. So spending as much time skin to skin as you can, and if there are any difficulties getting on with hand expressing to bring that milk supply in, will be the best start you can have. And asking for help and getting someone to watch you putting your baby to the breast. Even if it does feel like we're busy on the wards, people will very willingly come and watch you.
I think in the early days you have to be confident that what your baby's asking for is normal. And if you're tired after your birth, your baby's going to be tired after your birth as well. So it's normal for your baby to be a little bit sleepy and not want frequent feeds in the first day. And I think that and even this morning I've had several questions from from the ward. They're worried that their baby's not feeding, and it's not actually 12 hours old yet. And it's only had 1 or 2 breastfeeds, which is absolutely phenomenal. And that they feel they can't express milk, but actually, that process has been started with the breastfeeding at birth and the skin to skin at birth, and that starts the production of the colostrum, and it's tiny little drops that your baby gets. And if your baby's suckling, we don't look at the volume and think, oh, there's not very much there, but when you hand express, it looks like there's a tiny amount, but we don't know that the baby's only getting that when it's breastfeeding, and that's completely normal, and we don't worry about that. So it's about being confident as a mother that your baby suckling or just expressing the tiny volumes of colostrum and going back to the tummy sizes, that is sufficient for your baby's needs. In the first day or so, it's not about the food, it's about your baby adapting to being outside of the uterus, it's outside of from the birth. It's getting used to being in the world with you. And so they're doing this counter-regulation, which we've talked about before on one of these videos, where they burn fat when they're not getting calories, and when they get calories, they burn the calories. So your baby will balance its blood sugar levels by either burning fat, which is the reserves all around its neck and its shoulders and its body. They will burn that fat if they're not getting the calories. And in certainly the first 24 hours, you don't worry about volumes. You don't worry about frequency of feeds. They may only have 3 or 4 feeds in the first day.
Yeah.
And then they will get little tiny trickles of breast milk when they have the occasional breastfeed. But what you are doing in that first day or 2 is you're priming your breasts to start producing. So the hand expressing is securing your supply for later. And that's the most important thing.
I'm also protecting the baby because it's like a first vaccine. Colostrum is full of every antibody your body has ever produced, so it's like a whacking great vaccine going into your baby. And as we mentioned last week, Hannah and I, when we were doing this session, it also lines the gut. So the baby's gut is quite porous when a baby is first born, and colostrum is like coating it to stop any harmful bacteria going through, and colostrum is the only product that can do that. Formula is not going to do that. So you're actually protecting your baby. This is part of its lifelong health of being breastfed, is that colostrum lines the gut and prevents harmful bacteria and proteins going through the baby's gut. So it's actually, colostrum is the most amazing stuff. And the reason that it's thick and gloopy is that it's exactly that. It's filling up all the little gut gaps in the gut. And it's a laxative, so it's going to get meconium to be passed, which means that babies are less likely to be jaundiced because the laxative properties make sure that the meconium is passed and the bilirubin levels aren't going to go up. So there is no replacement for colostrum. Anybody who raises any animal, whether it be a calf, a llama, or whatever, pedigree dog, those babies will be given colostrum because we know how important it is.
And if you do work with those animals, you do know that those babies will die if they don't get colostrum. It's so important. So we have that same weight on newborn babies, mammal babies, of any species, but our babies, human babies, they also need to get that, and it should be seen with the same weight as other mammals, where they really need to get it to get them primed to start the process of the immunity and starting to put the calories on and to aid them to develop. So it has the same importance in every single mammal, and I think we don't see it as the same importance as people that work in farming. They really know that they have got to get that colostrum in, and it's the same for us. We have to, it's really important that those babies get that colostrum, and that you give your baby your colostrum. It is as important as every aspect of other feeding of your baby, and it's that priming, stopping the allergies and disease later in life that creates long-term health, that Alex said, for the future of that person.
I can see we've got a few more questions coming through. So firstly, Chloe, I'm going to suggest again that do make the most of the Ask the Midwife call, because obviously we're the infant feeding team, but because your question is more just general midwifery. You've asked about your baby being back to back. How can you help that help your baby to move? And certainly, when I've been working with mothers in the past, we would often talk to them about being in an all fours position, because that can exactly scrub the floor is what we always used to say.
Scrub the floor,
scrub
do
the
some
floor.
gardening.
But actually, you probably, if you want to try the Ask the Midwife line, give them a shout. I'm sure they can have a longer conversation with you about that, and come up with other suggestions that may be helpful. And obviously, it's quite important to have a chat about, how many weeks you are, because if your baby's back to back and you're really early on, well, that's not an issue. But if you're much later on, that can be more problematic. So perhaps give the Ask the Midwife line a quick call and they'll give you a fuller answer.
There's a great website called Spinning Babies. Have a little look at that. Google Spinning Babies, and that will give you lots of different positions for turning babies round for the whole of your pregnancy. You can have a little look at that. You might find that helpful.
Claire has said, hello, she's expecting baby number 2 in 3 weeks, and she's been halving colostrum and freezing it in sterilised tubes. Well done you, we like that. I'm making a lot. I can't see how I can use it all, to be honest, for the baby. Can I donate colostrum, please? They'd love it. They'd absolutely love it. Get in touch with Amanda, but wait and have your baby first. You could contact with Amanda anyway to get the ball rolling. But yeah, they would be very happy to have colostrum too, because as I said, it's full of all these antibodies. It's the most amazing product to protect babies. It's more for protection than for food. So I'm sure they'd be delighted. Amanda Wood runs the milk bank. If you go onto the OUH website, look up, put in Wood milk bank, and it will come up. She's there, all the contact information. But well done. But I wouldn't give it away until you've had your baby and you're sure you don't need it. So Lizzie is replying to Rebecca's messages. She said she had her second daughter at the spas on Friday and found the breastfeeding support offered was great. I was there for about 30 hours after birth, and I must have asked 10 times over. I have to find where I was. 10 times over, and by various care assistants and midwives, if I was okay with feeding and if I needed any support or help with the latch, or simply if I wanted someone to sit with me while I helped her latch, and hope that helps. She hopes that helps. So that's a lovely reassuring message to say we are here supporting you, and it doesn't have to be us. I think Hannah and I said this last week. It doesn't have to be us, because actually we tend to get rolled in when things are not going quite straightforward, or there might be a few more issues. The majority of people won't see us. The majority of people will see 1, 2, 3, or in this Lizzie's case, lots of lovely staff who will be able to help and have the skills to help. It doesn't need to be us. Amy said she's sorry, she didn't realise it was about feeding. That's absolutely fine. We love hearing from you. It's great. But I want to plug the Ask the Midwife line, because they are there, and that's specifically what they're for. So we're very happy, because we are midwives, before we became infant feeding. So, we both...
We're still midwives as infant feeding.
We still are. We're registered midwives, both of us. So it's quite fun to bring those skills back into fore. But the Ask the Midwife team will have a bit more time to talk to you. Gemma's asked if you can get a blocked milk duct in your areola right by your nipple. How would you treat blocked milk duct?
Yes, you
can. That one?
Yes, you can. The answer is that you've got little, what we call Montgomery's tubercles, which are the little pimply things that you see on your areolas. If as you get later in your pregnancy, sometimes they become quite enlarged, and sometimes they get a little bit full. Have you had your baby, or are you pregnant?
She hasn't mentioned.
Okay. Sometimes you get them before you have your baby, and sometimes they get larger as your milk comes in, and it's very personal to you. Not everybody does, so don't think that you have to have milk coming from them, but some people do get that problem, and they can get a little bit blocked. It becomes a bit sort of thick and cheesy, the milk in them, and then they can get a little bit blocked up. So if you're sore, you could probably put some warm water on, massage a little bit, and just watch and see what happens. But usually they settle down, but it might be that you need to call us if it's a problem, and we could talk you through your personal issues. So but it isn't uncommon to get blocked Montgomery's tubercles, but it might make you a bit sore in that area when you're wanting to breastfeed, if you are feeding where your baby's gums might be. do call us if you need to talk further.
Amy's come back. She says she plans on breastfeeding again, so the advice has been helpful there.
Good.
So that's lovely. We're very pleased. Victoria has said, hello, how can I help my baby wind at night? He's a week old now and suffering with posseting and spitting out. I'm breastfeeding him. Posseting and spitting is quite normal. Babies are born with a very immature sphincter at the top of the stomach, so it's very common for babies to bring a little bit up. That's a maturity thing, gets better as time goes on. Just putting a baby in any upright position, it doesn't have to be, you know, up on your shoulder, pat, 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 can be sitting on your lap. Any upright position will help babies bring wind up. If they're breastfeeding, the likelihood is it won't be too much to do with wind as well, though, because if you think about it, there's no air in your breast. When a baby's fed with the bottle, there's air in the bottle. It's much easier to take it in. It's more likely that if your baby's been crying a lot, they've taken air in that way than from being at the breast, because at the breast they don't take air in as such. But babies can be quite dramatic about feeling stomach pain, like you might have, you know, so you can feel your tummy rumbling or digestion and everything. Babies can be quite dramatic about it. There's no filter on.
Can't say anything else.
No,
that's the way they respond.
Yeah, there's no filter on them, so they will make it look like a real deal. And it's just making them comfortable. Sometimes it can be popping them over your arm in like a leopard skin. I was just looking for a doll actually in a leopard position. They quite like that pressure on their tummies. You're going to demonstrate what I mean, yeah?
Tiger in the tree.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I say about leopard in the arm.
That's quite a nice position.
They love
and then
it.
you can massage the baby's tummy, and you can, if you do that, pat its bottom. That often is very soothing for them. They put their head to the side on your hand like that. And it's a nice one for dads to do because they've got slightly bigger arms as well. You know, they can just pat the baby's bottom, or you can do a little bit of tummy massage that way. I think also make sure your positioning is right so that your baby's getting the right mix of milk when it's feeding, so it's getting lots of fat and lactose as well, so that it's not getting too much of one and gulping in lots of one type of milk at the beginning of the feed and not able to access the other. If you get your baby on really deeply, so make sure your baby gets a really big mouthful. I'm looking for breast.
Oh, there you go.
You know, this is our little model, but make sure that the baby's got its mouth right down underneath so that the gum just skims the nipple here, and then it will start to milk the breast deeply. If your baby's central, so it's central to the areola and the nipple, you'll find that it does take not the right mix of milk as well. So just get someone to check your positioning if you can. If you're still under midwife care, you're only a week, aren't you? Just make sure that you have really got a good mouthful underneath and your baby's coming up from underneath your breast and just skimming the nipple over its gum when it goes on, so that it's actually milking the breast rather than the areola. And that might improve the behaviour, and your baby might become a little bit more settled over a period of 2 to 4 days. You wouldn't see it on the next feed. Everything is very slow with breastfeeding. It's normally 48 to 72 hours. And that's why people get very despondent when they do anything in breastfeeding, because it happens very slowly. Making milk happens slowly, seeing change happens slowly, babies pooing happens slowly, gaining weight happens slowly. So that's why we don't weigh babies every day, because it doesn't show that difference. It takes a few days to see change. So everything we do is at least 48 hours in breastfeeding, and I think if you know that and you understand that, you will become less impatient as a mother when you're not seeing things happening quickly and not believing that what you're doing is going to work. So it is frustrating for mothers and both parents if they don't see things happen quickly. But you have to keep plodding along and keep doing it, because eventually you'll get a reward and you will see change with all of these things. But you know, have a look at it all, and you know, remember your baby's just getting used to life outside of you, and accepting food into its tummy in large volumes, which will have only been for 2 or 3 days by now, because the milk will have only just arrived, will be quite a shock for your little baby.
I think make the most of the fact, because, you know, as you say, Victoria, your baby's only a week old, so you are under the midwife still. Make the most of that. When you're seen for your day 10 appointment, just get someone to have a quick peek at your positioning and attachment and just make sure it's as good as you can get it. And there is support out there. You know, the teams are supporting people, and I know we've plugged it before, but we are doing support too as a team. So if you are struggling, then you can contact us. We are able to do video calls, and we can look at positioning and attachment on a video call, as long as we've got someone being a cameraman or a camera woman. We just need that support. You know, we just need someone else to hold the phone so we can see what you're doing. So we can help, even then. Make the most of all the help you can get. Karis has come back and asked, how early should you expect colostrum to come in during the 3rd trimester, and how much colostrum would you advise to harvest and freeze? Well, actually it comes in earlier than that. You're going to get it in your 2nd trimester. Onwards. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you get it early on, and colostrum is building up. Many women find, well, quite a few women will find that they do start leaking as they get closer to their delivery date. They'll find little specks, and they'll in the bra. They'll also find that their breast, the nipple area, might look a little bit crystalline, because it's very sugary, so it dries like sugar, and you can see it's a bit crystalline on there.
If you don't produce it, it's also normal.
Yeah, exactly.
So some do. You're not.
That's why I said not all. I said many. And how much would you advise to harvest? Well, there is no amount. There's no specific amount. We would suggest you don't start doing it until 37 weeks, and maybe only do it 4 times a day, then maximum. There's lots of resources out there about expressing colostrum. If you want it to have some milk before your baby's born, or colostrum before your baby's born, that's a good reason. And the other good reason is learning a skill before you've had your baby. Most women are very tired once their baby arrives. Learning something new is quite challenging. Learning how to hand express before you have your baby can be beneficial. But I think less focus on how much you get, but maybe learning that skill. As we said, when we're talking about maybe only 3 feeds in the first 24 hours of life with a baby, then actually we're talking very small amounts. It could be 0.2, it could be 0.3. Some women might get 1 ml, but many don't. So we are talking small amounts.
It's unusual to get large amounts. It's more normal to have tiny.
We had that lady earlier who said she did, but
yeah.
some do brilliantly.
Yeah.
So we're all different. Everyone is different. So.
And I can run through a little bit of hand expressing quickly with you. We've done that several times already on these sessions, so if you want to go back and see some of the sessions, it will be repeated there as well if you're not sure. But the important thing is that you're comfortable and you're not feeling observed, and you're warm. All milk supply is dependent on your relaxation, and it's driven by the hormones of love and relaxation. So we're looking at oxytocin and prolactin, and these are very important for milk production to drive it, but also that it doesn't work if you're very stressed. So it's important that you're comfortable doing this. So you can massage your breasts a little bit before you start, and that will help the flow a little bit. You can support your breasts, and then with your finger and thumb in a C shape, you can go to the base of your nipple. So you're just going to the base of your nipple and move back about 2 to 3 centimetres. So that might be on your areola, it might be halfway along your areola, it might be beyond your areola, the darker area of your breast. And so that will be where your milk production is primed to be triggered. So you'll find that probably is the first place to go. And if you're not getting anything, you can move your finger and thumb around a little bit further so that you can do that. So move your fingers right back, and then squeeze down and hold for about 4 seconds, and then release, and then push back, squeeze down, and it's quite a firm, I don't know if you can see, it's quite a firm compression. We don't want rubbing, because that will make your skin sore and you won't get anything. So it's very deliberate, compressing your breasts together. And then when you have stopped seeing anything coming from there, you can move around like a clock face, 360 degrees around your breast. You might want to just change the place where you're putting your fingers, near or further away, if nothing much is happening. And then you go back to that side and go to this side, do the same on this side. Then you'd repeat on both breasts, because you've started the flow, and then you're probably going to get something. And you can collect it on a spoon. You can collect it in a little egg cup, you can collect it however you want to do, and you can freeze it in your freezer for 6 months. So you can keep it in the fridge for 5 days, and you can keep colostrum on the side for 24 hours.
Yeah.
mature milk is for 6 hours, but colostrum is actually 24 hours. So don't worry too much if you're doing it and you fall asleep. You can just keep it there and use it and put it into the fridge if you need to, or put it straight into the freezer. Make sure the receptacle's clean if you're going to freeze it and collect it. But it is a skill. You don't have to collect it. It is a skill that you will learn before you have your baby, but you don't have to collect it if you don't want to. You don't have to collect your milk and freeze it if that's not what you want to do. It doesn't make your breastfeeding potential any better, other than the fact that you have got a skill that you've learned before you've had your baby, and that makes it much easier for you when you've had your baby and you're tired.
I think the thing to remember about it there as well is if you have been doing hand expressing before you come in and before you've had your baby, or before you've had your baby full stop, that doesn't mean you don't keep hand expressing or feeding afterwards. So we on occasions have babies that are born who are very sleepy, who don't attach to the breast. The mums give all the express colostrum that they've brought in, and they don't hand express as well. Milk supply is driven by milk removal. If you don't keep removing the milk, either by the baby or by hand expressing, the body doesn't know to make the milk. So even if you have a fabulous supply of colostrum when that baby is born, you've got to start removing milk, whether it's the baby or your hands. So we have had instances where mums have had fantastic supply. They've used that supply up when the baby's born. The baby hasn't been attaching to the breast particularly well, and they've then ended up with not having enough milk because the body wasn't told once the baby was born that the body needed to carry on making more and more, and it didn't. So we have to play a huge catch-up game, which is really hard. So if your baby comes and your baby's not attaching, even if you've got a really good stack of colostrum, you still need to be removing milk, because you've got to tell the body, the baby is here and I need the milk. So,
and your colostrum is enough. You don't need to think that you have to give your baby extra food in the early days because you think you haven't got very much. So you don't need to bring formula into hospital just in case, because you know you've got that colostrum in your breast, and most women, nearly every woman, has got colostrum in her breast. She may not feel that there's anything there, and certainly on the the first few times that the hand expression happens, you may not get very much or nothing at all. But actually, your baby, if it attaches, is probably slightly more efficient than hand expressing. Don't worry, it will come, and you will, if you continue with the hand expressing. Don't just do it once and give up. Just keep doing it. Do it every hour for 4 hours if you can, and work really hard at both breasts to do that stimulation, so that you're priming your breasts to start producing it and telling them that it's time to start producing the milk. And so your baby doesn't need other foods. We go back to that counter-regulation. You don't need to give your baby formula because you can't see 40 mils of milk coming out of your breast when you're hand expressing. And so your image of giving food to a baby is for a much older baby, where you see other people feeding babies out and about. Newborn babies in the first few days have tiny, tiny, tiny volumes. Go back to the tummy sizes again and think about what's happening in the body. There's no milk in your breast because you're not supposed to have it, and your baby is not supposed to receive large volumes in the early days. It's supposed to just get used to being outside of your tummy, and it's got to get used to priming the gut, getting all those triggers for the baby's natural vaccines from your colostrum, and then it starts to up the milk production over the next sort of 72 hours. So you don't need to bring formula into hospital just in case. And when you're in hospital, if we do feel that your baby's unwell or that it's medically indicated, we would always offer you the option of having donor breast milk from other mothers, which is very safe and pasteurised and been screened thoroughly. And that option is there, that we can give tiny, tiny amounts of that to your baby should it be deemed necessary. But most babies just need skin to skin and breastfeeding and or hand express colostrum, and keep doing it and keep doing it. And we will monitor, and we won't suggest that you go home if we don't feel your baby is doing well enough with the feeding. We may suggest that you stay in an extra night, and we know how desperate you are to go home to your partner and be a family, but actually the help is not the same as it was before the pandemic started, so it's not readily available for you to drop in anywhere to get some help. So if somebody offers you the opportunity to stay in another night, think very carefully before you go home, because it might be the best help that you'll get in the early days because it's not available on tap like it has been, which is normally excellent. There is OBS, Oxfordshire Breastfeeding Support, which are doing video contacts as well, and telephone support with La Leche League, but it's still not the same as face-to-face contact. And this might be the best opportunity that you get with the support, even if you're tired and desperate to be with your partner.
Just think about it as investment. It's an investment of time. So that's what's so useful. It's that investment of time that you're doing. Right, so moving on. Sophie, my baby's just over 2 weeks old. I'm exclusively breastfeeding. He's been putting on weight nicely, well done. The past 2 days there's been mucus in his poo. Is it because of something I'm eating? We probably want to have a chat about what you mean by mucus in the poo. We anticipate, that you would be having yellow, runny stools, and I think that surprised people that the poos of a breastfed baby are so liquid, but they're not formed at all. Breastfed baby's poo is really, really liquid, tends to be mustardy yellow with little white flecks in it. Mucus, there could be a number of reasons really. I don't know if anybody in your house has got a cold, because that can manifest as mucus in the poo.
Sometimes if they've started to feed a lot more, your milk supply's gone up a lot more, it might just be that you're getting lots of, the milk at the beginning, which is a little bit more watery, and that sometimes can make them have slightly mucousy poos. If they're getting lots, it can be a bit spinach coloured. Sometimes if they're getting lots of full milk and not much fat. So just you might need to go back and look at your positioning and attachment. It might be that you just need to tweak the positioning to see if you could get a slightly deeper latch. You might find that your little one's got a bit used to what it's doing and it's getting a bit naughty just going on, and you're not so sore, so you're being a bit more relaxed. Go back to basics again and see if you've got a really good deep latch with a big mouthful of breast. Where your baby's got a mouthful of breast underneath the breast again, so that you're really getting into the deep breast and not just getting the milk from the front. It's really deeply on, and just go back to that and make sure that your attachment is really good, because you might be just relaxing your skills a little bit because you're able to sleep with your baby at night. You might snuggle with your baby at night and feed it, and not be quite so vigilant during the feed, and that might just be that you're not quite getting the babies on the breast quite so deeply, and that could be all it is.
So what you could do, these wonderful days of our wonderful technology, is if it's persisting and you've tried that, take a picture and email us with the picture, and we can have a peek and see what we feel as well. So, but we as a team, whenever we meet women with their newborn babies, the first thing we do is look at positioning and attachment. There's no one has perfect positioning and attachment. There's always room for improvement. And I always talk about my own experience having fed 2 and on my 3rd, and training as an NCT breastfeeding counsellor, and I changed the way I fed, and this was my 3rd baby. So there is always room for improvement, and that's where we always start. We're not meaning to to sort of doubt people, but it's where we always start. Positioning attachment makes such a difference. The millimetres,
not
here,
inches.
Yeah, it's tiny, weeny amounts of a change of moving that baby slightly further down or slightly further away can make a huge difference. So see how you get on, Sophie, and get in touch if things are not improving. Take a picture, send it to us, and we can have a look and have a chat with you on the phone.
We've also said it before several times, but look at the angle of your breast.
Yeah.
Because often you're putting your baby on, if your breasts are down here, you might find that you're putting your baby on sideways. I don't know if you can see that, but actually your baby should be coming up and underneath, so that the angle of your breast is supporting, your baby's supporting the way that the breast falls into your mouth. So if your nipples are up here, then your baby will be here, but if it's down further, your baby needs to come up from underneath, and it might be once your milk supply is settling that your breasts are a little bit less firm. You're doing this a little bit more instead of supporting your breast a little bit more that way, and just that might make a difference, just to stabilise the breast in the mouth, so when the feeding becomes a bit less vigorous and your baby settles and goes to sleep a little bit, he may drop the nipple from the mouth slightly and then go on to the end a little bit more. So just be really vigilant about the way that your breast falls. Have a look in the mirror and think, is it there or is it there? And go and try and have another look and see if you're doing that, because that might make a difference too.
And we call it the angle of the dangle, don't we?
We call it the angle of the dangle, because that's what it is.
Yeah. And because, you know, in the past people thought babies had to come flat on. No, they need to follow the angle that your breast points at, and that really makes
it used to
big
be tummy to
difference.
mummy. Everybody said tummy to mummy, but actually it certainly isn't that unless you've got very high sitting breasts, which most women don't have. Most women have their breasts in this position.
Down and out, we'd say, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
down and out.
That way. So that's more normal than that.
Yeah.
Okay. So and tummy to mummy would be that, and most women don't have breasts like that, so it's wrong. But look at the way that your breast dangles. Look in the mirror. Get a photograph. Go sideways on. Go look down. Look straight on, and then look at what's happening, and take your baby up to that angle, and see if that improves your latch.
So Amy's written that she's got some leftover colostrum in the freezer that she halved before the baby arrived. He's now 4 weeks old. Can I still give him that colostrum even now that he's older? I'm still exclusively breastfeeding. You can, but remember it's a laxative, so you might make him poo a bit more. But you could also save it for when he's not feeling too good. So if he gets a bit of a bug or a bit of a cold, that would be a good time to give it to him too, because it's going to be full of those antibodies. So you can give it to him, but as I say, remember it's a laxative. But maybe save it. And see what happens. Rebecca said, should we all be harvesting colostrum? It was not mentioned at all at my last birth. This is the first I've heard about it. If I do, when should I start? I'm 36 weeks. You don't all have to do it. We would categorically say do not. We recommend it for mothers who may encounter problems. So our mothers who have diabetes, they would really benefit from doing it in advance. And the reason for that is that when a baby is born and the mother is diabetic, then there is a chance that their baby's blood sugars are going to be slightly erratic, and this means we've got food ready to feed that baby. And we know that trying to keep a baby human milk exclusive, so that is colostrum, mothers expressed or donated, gives that baby the best chance of not developing diabetes later in life. So maintaining human milk exclusivity in a baby born to a diabetic mother makes a really, really big difference, and that's why we really push it to our mothers who have diabetes. Other mothers who might want to be thinking about expressing in advance are mothers who had problems previously, who had real problems with feeding last time, getting a milk supply established, or mothers who know they're having a premature baby. Got anything to add to that, Naomi?
I think that if you've got any medical problems as well, so if you take medication or you've got any concerns, then it might be worth having a contact with us as well. But it also that if you want to protect someone who may have got something like Crohn's disease or celiac disease, and anything which is inflammatory bowel diseases, things like that are very important to protect your baby's gut in the early days, to protect them from any sort of stimulation of allergies or triggering any autoimmune things. So we encourage anybody that's got any medical history like that perhaps you'd like to talk to us, but and also as she said, diabetic, as you said, diabetics, Alex. I think that any issues that you're worried about, maybe if you've had breast augmentation, so you may have had breast surgery or breast reduction, it might be a good idea to get a little bit more colostrum going as well, if you feel that that's what you'd like to do. Yeah,
and I think people who maybe are asthmatic, hay fever, and they're the sort of people as well that we would try and avoid to giving formula in the early days. That's one of the reasons we use donated breast milk, is to maintain that human milk exclusivity. So expressing colostrum is not necessary. For some it's advised, but if it hasn't been advised to you, unless you've got any of the implications we've been talking about, you don't need to. But it might be worth learning that skill, I think is what we're saying very much. So it's a skill that you can...
It doesn't make more milk if you do or don't do it. The milk production is the same. Afterwards, your body will do that, providing you prime your breasts after you've had your baby. It doesn't make you more successful in your milk production if you do it, other than the fact that you have the skill available already, and that might make your hand expressing in the early days more efficient because you know how to do it, and that is the bonus.
So Saint has asked a question as well about colostrum. She wants to know if it's to be frozen in the same sterile tube from different days. Probably we'll use one for each day. So many women will express about 4 times in a day in those from 37 weeks onwards, and they just collect it in one per day. You could then freeze it. But you can add to it. There isn't
Especially
any
if it's
concerns.
tiny
Yeah,
amounts.
exactly. So you don't have to do a separate tube for everyone. That's absolutely fine. I mean, you could put it in the fridge and collect over a couple of days and then freeze it. So, and she's 35 weeks pregnant, so we'll see you in about 5 weeks, hopefully. So,
don't start expressing for another couple of weeks.
Yeah, 37
probably.
weeks onwards. Gemma's asked another one. I've been breastfeeding exclusively for 4 weeks. I noticed I get a hard, round, pea-sized lump under my areola. I wondered if this was a blocked milk duct. It's not painful at the moment.
Yes, probably. Yeah, just make sure that the attachment is good. Is it deep enough? And you might just want to do a little bit of massage or do a little bit of hand expressing in that area, which might unplug it. It just might be that one of the tiny little ducts in your nipple is slightly plugged with some milk, and it may just need a little bit of clearing. Some of the little ducts are so tiny you don't see them, and you've got quite a lot in your nipple, so it doesn't just come out of one duct, so you won't necessarily see them all, but it might be that it's just slightly plugged, and it does make feeding a little bit tender. I know that. So a bit of warm compress, and then good attachment, and then do a little bit of good hand expressing rather than pumping may well clear it more efficiently because you're targeting that area more specifically. Try that, and if you're still struggling, do call us.
Victoria's come back again, and she's saying thank you for our last answer to her, and she wants to know if she needs to go through Ask the Midwife to get hold of us. Actually, you can find our details on the OUH website. So if you go onto the OUH website, look up maternity, and then there's a tab called infant feeding, and all our details are on there. It lists the 5 of us that are part of the infant feeding team, and it has our email and our telephone number, so you can call us direct, and we'd love to hear from you.
And it's also on the bottom at the end of this session. The details may well be posted on. I think the MVP put that on for us at the end of the session, so that you've got the contact details for Oxfordshire breastfeeding support, La Leche, and also for all our details too, so you can contact us.
Adina's telling us that she's got a 3-week-old baby that she's feeding. He's very fussy, colicky, and I believe he's feeding for comfort. Can he overfeed? What can I do to improve his digestion? Do that one?
Well, he sounds like he's enjoying it very, very much, and you can't ever spoil a breastfed baby. It's not just about food; it's the whole experience. It's his oral needs being met, as well as his physical and his nutritional needs being met. So I think probably you need to look at your positioning and attachment very closely to make sure that he is on quite deep enough, and it might be that he's not quite far enough onto the breast, and that might be making him a little bit tummy achy, a bit of explosive stools, and he might be busy in the evenings when you're wanting to sit down and have your supper. You might find that he's doing a lot of cluster feeding, which will make him unsettled. So I think look at your positioning and attachment, look at some of the things that we've talked about already today about getting a really deep latch, making sure that he's on really well, and also looking at your Off to a Best Start. You might find that's your book here, this nice yellow book. It's back to front here, but you've got lots of pictures in here about positioning and attachment that you can look at to see if he's coming up onto the breast in the right way, and that might help you find them, and to make sure that he's on deeply enough, because that millimetre extra, yes, you find it, that millimetre extra might make the difference between him being unsettled and settled. You might find that he has got very runny poos because he's feeding lots and lots and not feeling that he's really full. So this is the page I'm talking about, and you can see the way that your baby comes up onto the breast. It needs, and have a good look at these, everybody. This
is pages 10 and 11 in Off to the Best Start. You should have all had it when you went home.
But it's also available on our website as a PDF. And also your midwife can show you these pictures if you're pregnant, or you can look at them online yourself and look at these pictures to see But just check your positioning. Have a look at what's happening. Is he coming up in the right way? The other thing is, if do you have lots and lots of milk? Have you got a bit of an overstimulation? Is he going on the end of the nipple a bit much and he's getting lots and lots to drink but not chocolate pudding? You know, and that deep position might then give him that extra filling, his pudding and his cheese and biscuits and after dinner mints, you know, that's what they need. So it might be that he's, the other thing is that if he's not quite on the breast as deeply as he should be, his oral needs may not be met and he's searching to be satisfied with a full breast in his mouth. And if it's just a few millimetres in the wrong place, his needs aren't being met orally, so he might be searching for that and not be hungry. And then giving him more food makes him more upset and more sort of runny poos and unsettled, and that all of the things I'm saying might ring true with a lot of you listening today that have got newborn babies. You know, that this is a busy learning time for you, and we can't overemphasize good positioning and attachment and how it changes the baby's behaviour. And even if they're on a few millimetres in the wrong place, their oral needs sometimes aren't met in the same way, and they want to suck, and they're not hungry. They go on the breast and they come off because they don't want the food, they just want the suck. But saying that, babies do suck to soothe, because that's normal behaviour, and he might be bored, he might be happy, he might be sad, he might be lots of things, but it might not be hunger. But that's normal baby behaviour, and all of those things, cuddling your baby, skin to skin, feeding your baby, grows their brains. It grows their neurons in their brains, and it aids baby development. So they need all of those things. They don't just need food from you as a mother. They need all of those things.
I think something we say a lot is that feeding is a lot more than just food. But if you think about it, they've been 9 months in your tummy, and they've come into this strange new world, and you're their connection. You're the one that makes sense to them, and actually feeding just makes them settled and calm, and they get that closeness and comfort, that you smell nice, they can hear you, they can feel you, and so, you know, yes, feeding is a lot about comfort. In fact, it is one of the best mothering tools you'll find you ever have. You know, if your baby, when they have their injections, the best thing you can do is put them to the breast as soon as they've had them, because they will calm and be soothed. You know, as they get older, if they pinch a finger or whatever, the best thing you can do is put them to the breast, because they will just calm and soothe, because it's how they understand this world, through you. So feeding is a lot about comfort. So it's just remembering that they need you to understand that. But with regard to the colic, and you know, as Naomi's given a really good answer about the fussing and colicky side of it, again, we would always look at positioning attachment first and foremost. And if it's persisting and you're not getting the help you need, you really feel it's not getting any better, just get in touch with us. As I say, we are able to do video chats. We can look at positioning attachment on there, and if we really need to, we can bring people in if we have to. Rebecca's message saying, my baby tends to have gasping sounds and wind and gas after breastfeeding. She's less than 10 days old. It takes ages to settle her. Any tips for this? I'm going to go back to the settle her. I'm wondering where she's being settled, because babies don't expect to be put down. You know, newborn babies expect to be in your arms. As I've just said, 9 months in your tummy, they expect to be here. That's their next progression point. So it is, most babies do not want to be put down in a cot, pram, pushchair, whatever. They want to be with you, and that's very, very normal baby behaviour. That's why we spend a lot of time talking about slings, don't we, Naomi? Slings are amazing. They free mummies up. They give you your hands back sometimes, and allow you to do things. So,
but the baby can hear your heartbeat.
Yeah, they love it. They love it. It's the next progression from being in your tummy, is being in a sling.
Outside your tummy.
So just here.
They're like monkeys. They don't put their feet on the floor for 18 months, monkeys. They cling to their mummies, and you know, your baby's hands are clasped like that because we had fur on us originally, and so they're holding on. That's their holding on. So, you know, babies are meant to be attached to you for a long time, and the way our culture and the way we've evolved has progressed is that we separate ourselves from our babies in our culture in the Western world a lot, and the expectation is that babies sleep through the night very quickly, and actually mammalian behaviour is opposite to that.
Unfortunately, nobody told the babies. So
they
just don't know that. They don't know
Yes.
that, and I think that
Yeah.
becomes a bit of an area of conflict. Parents think a good baby is a baby that sleeps in a cot, on their own, but actually we know that's not what babies do. Babies want to be with you. That's where they expect to be. That's why it's so difficult to settle them. You do mention about the wind and the gas and everything. Again, I would say, I know we've repeated ourselves over and over, look at your positioning and attachment. Because if we get positioning and attachment, you should have babies that feed well at the breast, who are doing nice yellow poos with white flecky bits in them. And that's a really good indicator. If the poos are going a bit green, that can be a sign we need to look at positioning and attachment again. So that would be my suggestion, Rebecca. As you're 10 days, she's less than 10 days old, you'll be having a 10-day appointment for your discharge. Make the most of that. Get the midwives to have a look at what you're doing. And even if your baby's asleep, you can still show what you're doing. We can go through positioning attachment like we do with a doll and a breast. You can do that with a sleeping baby. You can show somebody what you're doing, and it might be a millimetre here or there that makes the really big difference.
But try and arrange it with a slightly hungrier baby if you can.
Ideally.
And so if it's try and fit your feeds around your appointment time so that you can get some feeding support as well.
Sophie's thanked us for our answers earlier, and Delana has said, is a small belly meaning a small baby? No, all babies have small tummies. That all babies are born with small tummies. None of them have big tummies. Even our big babies will cope on just colostrum. Mothers will produce enough for them. We have
big babies have got lots of fat around them, so they've got even more protection. The babies that don't have very much fat, which are babies born before 37 weeks, they're the ones that we say you have to feed more frequently and watch more. Babies that are normal, healthy term babies that have no problems, and the bigger, they've got even more fat around them to protect them with the counter-regulation, so that they can cope with small amounts.
Saints put another, not Saints, it's the next one. Delana's put another message up actually, and I'm thinking I've misunderstood the one before, because you've asked what food is good for increasing the baby weight before the baby is born. Well, we're not really looking for you to gain lots of baby weight in that respect. You just eat normally as you would, unless we've got, if we've got concerns about your baby, that will be picked up on scan, and then you will be advised what to do then. But actually, eating isn't going to have a huge impact on that baby growing. So the only time we're worried is if babies aren't growing particularly quickly, and then you would be put on small for gestational age pathway, and you would be having scans to check what's happening with your baby. But don't worry about that. Majority of women,
the placenta feeds your baby, and it's the health of the placenta that's the one that grows your baby.
So just eat what you need to. Eat well. Eat as healthily as you can, and follow your appetite, and don't worry too much on that one. And the scans will pick up if there's any problems. Saints thanked us for our answer, and we've heard from Leah. We know Leah Lambie. She's combination feeding. She's got 2 bottles of formula a day, sometimes express milk when you manage. Well done. We know how hard it is to express. And with the rest of breastfeeding on demand, we have an 8-week jabs and the rotavirus next week. Sorry, I'm going to have to open up next week. Would it be worth saving some expressed milk to offer instead of the formula for the day or 2 after the rotavirus? Because I know it irritates their stomach. Or would the change from some formula to only breast milk for a couple of days irritate her digestion more? I think your express breast milk would be fantastic, actually. I think it would be a really good thing to be giving. If you think about the compounds that are in breast milk, they're there to calm tummies and offer the protection. So I think if you can give her more express breast milk on those days, that would be brilliant. That would be fantastic. I hope that answers that, Leah. Can't believe your baby's already 8 weeks old. That's amazing. Karis, thank you very much for your detailed response. So,
last question.
That is the last question.
Is that the last question?
Yeah, that was.
We've had a good hour. It's we're well into that now. So hopefully we've answered some of your questions and met some of your needs. And if there's anything that's come up that's run a chord with you, then call us or ask your midwives, and we will hopefully be here next week to see you as well. So do look back at some of the other ones if you haven't seen them before.
Saint snuck another question in.
Oh, did she?
She has.
Last one then.
So She's put this lovely smiley face on her message. Hiya, she's gone. If I ate spicy food while breastfeeding, would it upset my baby's stomach? Hannah and I talked about this last week. There are no forbidden foods. You can eat what you want. So just go for it. Just eat a normal, healthy diet that you would normally eat, and your baby will adapt. There are so many foods out there mums are told not to eat, but there's no substance for any of those. Just eat.
And we know that if your baby has lots of variety in breast milk from foods, then when you come to wean your baby, they will be used to those tastes from breast milk. So if you have lots of garlicky tastes and lots of spicy tastes and lots of herby tastes, the baby will adapt to weaned foods and family foods much more easily and probably be much less fussy in the fact that they've had lots of variety of flavours in breast milk.
I think it was really funny. There was a piece of research done where they were giving babies food that had a vanilla tint to it or a garlic tint to it, and the babies actually preferred the garlic tint, which was quite amazing. But so yeah, babies that are breastfed are used to getting completely varied taste because some of it will go through the breast milk. But unless you see a very specific link on more than one occasion, we would not think there'd be a problem with anything that you're eating. There are no forbidden foods. So, Saint, eat what you want, my lovely.
And enjoy.
And Leah, you've said about that she thanked us for her support and that she's still breastfeeding at 7 weeks, and we're delighted you are too. Well done, Leah. That's absolutely brilliant. Katie said thank you. Saint's put a smiley face again, and thanks so much again. Well, thank you to all of you for your lovely questions and
for supporting us.
And apologies for the slow start. We had a few technical difficulties, and this, as we mentioned, is on a mobile phone and not on the iPad. And I'm certainly fitter for running up and down the stairs to change equipment. But at least we didn't drop out this time, which we did last time twice. So thank you again for coming in, and do get in touch if you've got any questions. You can contact us directly. The numbers should come up afterwards, or find us on the OUH website, Maternity Infant Feeding, and we'd be delighted to talk to you or answer your emails. Okay?
Bye for now.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.